Thank you, Richard. Your Eminence, members of the GTU, my fellow colleagues that are Dominicans, thank you for having someone from the Jesuit school here. It speaks to the more than truths that we have here and enjoy at the GTU. I will promise not to bring any Jesuit ideology, at least not consciously, into my discussion. First of all, I want to thank the Cardinal for having the courage to address publicly what ought to be a concern for both scientists and theologians, not to mention the public at large. By this I mean a development coming out of some highly respected members of the scientific community. This development consists of publicly claiming deeply held religious convictions as having the authority and privilege of scientific consensus. The Cardinal's public remarks, both in a previous article in the New York Times and with this new book, Chance or Purpose, challenges this new development. I do not find in his remarks any fundamental disrespect or disregard of the scientific enterprise, but an attempt to try and address a disturbing development that has real consequences for all involved. A measure of the Cardinal's intuition about the importance at this time to speak out on this topic may be found in the great heat and energy let loose by his remarks, an energy taking form in a series of prodigious amounts of both anti-religion and anti-science commentaries. My remarks address what I believe are the source of that energy, as well as commenting on the Cardinal's points in his book that may lead us to future debates. Again, I ask apologies from my Dominican friends if I mention a Jesuit here. Gerard Manley Hopkins wrote, as many of you know, a poem which starts with, "As kingfishers catch fire, dragonflies draw flame." And so the scientists, in fact, I have brought this up to scientists here at Cal Berkeley. I have asked them, do you believe kingfishers catch fire, that dragonflies draw flame? And of course, it's a trick question, and they know that, and they play in the fun of that question, because of course they do, but not the way a scientist could actually articulate. So there's a reality to kingfishers catching fire, and there's a reality to dragonflies drawing flame, but it is a different reality or a different way to look at the world than scientists do. This brings me then to 2 points that I want to make that were raised by my reading of the Cardinal's book, because I think that it poses both challenge to theology and also to science. It seems to me that much of the heated discussion over the Cardinal's challenge finds its source in a lack of clarity about the actual subject of evolutionary theory. Much scholarly discussion in the issue of the theory, on the issue of the relationship between Christian theology of creation and evolutionary theory has focused on the theory itself and not on its subject. Such concentration on the theory and not its subject has provoked endless discussions about the nature of scientific theories and even the adequacy of evolutionary theory. Yet these discussions seem to avoid what I believe is the crucial question, namely, what is the subject of evolutionary theory? In other words, much of the debate has focused on the how rather than the what of evolutionary theory. A biologist, the question of the what of evolutionary theory is not as easy to answer as one may think. For to answer it, one must address not only the accuracy of the answer, but also its adequacy. If we are to say that the subject of evolutionary theory is the variation of species or of populations of living organisms, accuracy may be served, but not, I fear, adequacy. This is because evolutionary theory has become the central principle of the discipline of biology itself. And this has raised deep issues for the discipline of biology that I believe have not been addressed. The what of evolutionary theory, in other words, has become the what of the discipline of biology. Yet the traditional what of the discipline has been nothing less than life itself. It is here, in my opinion, where one of the sources of energy responsible for the heated discussion is to be found. For to have life as the subject of a question poses issues that are best articulated as why questions, and this intrinsic and inextricable connection between the what of biology and the why of its subject challenges both science and theology. On the one hand, the question of the what of evolutionary theory has in great part been silently avoided in scientific discussion, for it is a question that goes to the root intelligibility of the discipline itself. Biologists are rightly suspicious of any approach that smacks of vitalism. That is, a principle that life is a principle discontinuous with matter. For that reason, biology appears to have avoided asking the what of its discipline. For while it is clear that life necessarily must be understood as material, it is also clear that such is not sufficient. If vitalism is excluded and material explanations, while necessary, are not sufficient, then life must be understood as a challenge to our understanding of matter. Or in other words, our understanding of matter has to be radically expanded. It is for this reason that the question of matter, the whatness of life, is problematic. This is seen when one asks biologists, what does biology study? Most answers focus on the study of living processes. And while living process is a necessary focus of biology, it is not sufficient. It turns the subject of biology into an adjective as opposed to a noun. A biologist feels comfortable speaking of a living virus or a living plant, but not of a virus life or a plant life. The exclusive study of how an organism maintains itself, reproduces, develops, and changes in time avoids vitalism, but also limits our language about life as an adjective. I claim that while such language is necessary, it is not sufficient. In this, I think I am agreeing. I got all a lot of this came from many of the points, Cardinal, that you made in your book. Because it seems to me that what makes life as subject an affront to contemporary thought is that it can be characterized both as a noun and as an adjective.